Today's lesson is on the special type of right triangles that we are going to see. We have been working with all kinds of right triangles as we were doing the Pythagorean theorem, but we're going into some very special type of right triangles, and those two are the 45-45-90 and the 30-60-90. This video is only specifically the 45-45-90 part of it, so make sure that you watch the other part because they're both important and both part of these notes. But let's get started with the 45-45-90. Okay, so if you notice, it's actually in the name of the triangle 45-45-90. It's 45 degrees. The triangle is going to have two sets of 45-degree angles and one 90-degree angle. Because obviously it's a right triangle, it has to have a 90-degree angle. So what does it say? It says in a 45-45-90 triangle, the hypotenuse is square root of 2 times the length of the leg. Okay, so the 45-45-90 for me is my favorite. It's the easiest one, in my opinion, because it has two 45-degree angles. So if this is 90 degrees, we all know this is 90, right? This little box. If this is 90, then the other two are 45 degrees. And this is very special because that means that the legs for this triangle, here's a leg, here's the other leg, they're the same length. So what kind of triangles... What is the name of the triangle that has two sides that are the same length? It is an isosceles triangle. Two sides are the same. So it's very easy to figure out the side lengths because two of them are the same. So let's label it. These two are going to be x and x since they're the same. And the hypotenuse, remember the trick to find the hypotenuse? A lot of times students don't know what side is which. Is always across the 90 degrees. And it's obviously the longest side. It's very important that you remember that the hypotenuse is the longest side in a triangle. So this is my hypotenuse over here. And the hypotenuse, like it said here in our definition, the hypotenuse is square root of 2 times the length of the leg. So that looks like this. X times the square root of 2. And if you notice, it has that X value, but times the square root of 2. Okay? And that is how it's going to work for every 45-45-90 triangle. The legs are X, and the hypotenuse is X times the square root of 2. So let's look at an example. This table is going to be given to you to help you kind of figure out how to find the missing sides. So let's read this first before we do the first example. It's pretty easy to read. If the measure given, so if your problem that you have gives you the leg and you want to find the measure of the hypotenuse, then you are going to multiply the leg by the square root of 2. But if you're given the hypotenuse in the triangle and you want to find what the leg measure is, then you're going to divide the hypotenuse by the square root of 2. So let's look at our first problem here. It says, find the lengths of the missing sides, AB. So that's going to be here, AB, segment AB, and segment BC over here. So here's BC and AB. Okay. How do you know that this is a 45-45-90 triangle? Well, they told us one of the angles is 45, one is 90, so the other one has to be 45 degrees. If y'all remember, all the angles inside a triangle have to add up to 180. So you would just add that up and it would give you 180. But let's label our sides. This is going to be the best way to do this is label, label, label everything. Just like we were doing with the Pythagorean theorem. So I told you that across the 90 degrees is always your hypotenuse. So across the 90 here is my hypotenuse. And what is the measurement for the hypotenuse? The hypotenuse is x times the square root of 2. And then my legs are just x and x. Okay? Super simple, super straightforward. Now, I want to know what is the length of AB and BC, these two. Okay? So I'm going to show you one of the strategies that I've showed my students before on how to see it easily. And then I'll show you the other ways. So I'll show you both ways. We're going to make a table. So you might see me make these tables very often. We're going to make a table 45, 45, and 90. And the rule that we found was that the legs are x and x. And across the 90 degrees, we have x times the square root of 2. Okay? Which one did they give us? Which side did they give us? They gave us the hypotenuse right here. 9 times the square root of 2. So I can fill this in and say that this is 9 times the square root of 2, right? So very, very, very clearly, what is x based on the way I have it set up? X is 9 for the legs, right? X times the square root of 2, 9 times the square root of 2, x is 9. And so I can say that AB here is how much? 9. And BC is also 9. They're the same. Same length for the legs. So that one was easy. If we use the table that I showed you here, I know that the measure given was the hypotenuse. And I wanted to find the legs. So what does it say? Divide the hypotenuse by the square root of 2. So if we did it that way, we would still get the same answer. I'll show you the work here. Take the hypotenuse, because they gave me the hypotenuse, right? They gave me the hypotenuse, and I want to find the measure of the leg. So it says divide the hypotenuse by the square root of 2. So divide the hypotenuse by the square root of 2. So what do you see happens with the square roots? They cancel. And we still get 9. Okay? So you could have done it either way. Method 1, method 2. Okay? Let's go inside our notes. And that's 30, 60, 90. Let's go to this one. There is a typo on your notes, so please just fix it. It's going to be this right here. The hypotenuse that I gave you on the notes is wrong. It should be 18, so just scratch it off and put 18 on your triangle. Okay? All right. Let's do this one. They're asking me for the same side length, so they're asking me for AB and BC. Okay, so if you like the table, I'm going to set up the table here. So, or I can just copy it over. No, I'll rewrite it. Sorry. 45, 45, 45, 90. The legs are x. 90 is x times the square root of 2. I'll use the color, that way you can see it. square root of 2. Okay. They gave me the hypotenuse again, right? This is the hypotenuse. This is x times the square root of 2. And then I have the legs and the legs. Okay, so let's fill in our table. We know that across from the 90 degrees, they gave me that value of that side is 18. So 18 is equal to x times the square root of 2. Now, this one is not that simple like the first one because it's not that obvious what x is, right? I just know that this whole thing, this whole side is x times is 18. So how would you solve this? I say for this one, we use the other method. The one where it says, I have the hypotenuse, right here. I have the hypotenuse, the measure given for this 45, 45, 90 triangle. They gave me the hypotenuse. I want to find the legs. Divide the hypotenuse by the square root of 2. So let's go do that. So my hypotenuse is 18. And I'm going to divide it by the square root of 2. Let's do it over here. 18 divided by the square root of 2. And this is where we have to rationalize. This is from the lesson we did last week. We cannot have a square root in the denominator. We cannot have that. If you're in my class, I showed you a very quick trick to do it. In order to move it from the bottom of the denominator, we're going to move it to the top. So move it to the top next to the 18. And then we're going to rewrite the 2 at the bottom without the square root. So now it's rationalized because it's very illegal in math to have a square root in the denominator. So if you're in my class, this is the trick that we found, and it's easier just to get into the habit of memorizing the trick. So the square root moved to the top, and then you rewrite the 2, but without the square root. And now it's valid. But this is a fraction right here. 18 divided by 2. What is 18 divided by 2? We have to simplify that. 18 divided by 2. I'll show you. 18 divided by 2. 9. So my answer is 9 square roots of 2. And that is the length of my legs. 9 square root of 2, 9 square root of 2. Okay? So this one was a little different. Okay? All right. I want you to pause the video and try to do this next one right here. Okay? All right, if you're done, let's check your work. This one is also 45, 45, 90, but this one's different. They did not give me the hypotenuse. So let's label our sides. Across the 90 degrees, we have our hypotenuse, which is x times the square root of 2. And then the legs are just x and x. So label your triangle. All right, and then I'll do a table for this one again. 45, 45, 45, 90. Okay. And then it's x, x, x times the square root of 2. Those are the formulas for the side lengths. Okay, what did they give me? They gave me 6 times the square root of 2. And this time they're asking for DE. So here, DE and DF over here. Okay. So let's fill in the table. We know that X is equal to, right here, X is equal to 6 times the square root of 2. And it doesn't matter which leg we used. They're both the same, right? They're both X. So we already know one of them, DE, right here. DE is 6 times the square root of 2. Okay, but I don't know what the hypotenuse is. But I know what X is. And I know that the formula for the hypotenuse is just X times the square root of 2. X times the square root of 2. And I know what X is. It's right here. We already identified that. So if you look at our chart in the front, we have the leg and we want to know the hypotenuse. We multiply the leg by how much? Square root of 2. There it is. So let's take that leg, 6 times the square root of 2, and multiply it by another square root of 2. Notice how I'm following the formula for the hypotenuse. Okay, both of these are square roots. We can multiply them. What is 2 times 2? 4. If you're wondering why didn't I multiply the 6 times 2 times 2, because 6 is a whole number. You cannot multiply it or combine it with these square roots. Only square roots with each other, okay? What do y'all notice about this 4? 4 is a perfect square. So what is the square root of 4? Square root of 4 is 2. So remember there's a multiplication sign there. We just can't see it. What is 6 times 2? 12. So my hypotenuse is how long? 12. So these were my answers. So DF is 12 right here. All right. That one was a little different, but as you can see, we're still using the same patterns, okay? Your legs are going to be X and X, and your hypotenuse is X times the square root of 2. Okay, so we got to use what we have and figure out the rest of the sides. Okay, go ahead and watch the next video for the 30, 60, 90 triangles. Have a good day.